Aideen. Hello, Dana. Hello, Isabel. Hello, Lawrence. Hello, Mary. How are you? Great to see you all coming in. Susan Ross with her. We have got a really, really interesting session for you today. And it's a session that during the planning of, I was just saying to our brilliant panelists, I have learned so much about something I knew very, very little about. So I am not going to be leading this, obviously, because I have not been involved in either a management buyout or a merger and acquisition. But we have two people with extraordinary experience in those areas. So I really hope that you enjoy today's session. I think you will. I think it'll be a wide-ranging discussion, and it will probably flow quite based on what you as the participants have got to say or questions you have to ask. So please, at any point, use the chat box to just put a note to our panelists. Just a couple of things about that. If you hover over the bottom line, you'll see the chat box. It's the second one along, usually, although I'm on a Mac, it probably looks completely different on a PC. The default with Zoom is when you go into the chat, it defaults to host and panelists. If you just toggle down from there to everyone, it means that everyone on the session will see the question that you're asking. The advantage of that is it actually shows up in the recording and we can get the transcript of the questions, which I can send with the recording. But if you do have a question that you only want to put to me and Aideen and Wouter, then leave it on the host and panelists setting. We've got 89 people signed up for today. As you all know, the session is being recorded. So if you have to drop off the call, pick up a call, whatever it is you have to do, we will make sure that you get the recording. I will try and get that edited down this evening and I'll send it to you over the weekend. So we've got 29 people currently in out of our 89. So we'll wait a few more minutes. We are only a minute into the call at the moment. Thank you to everyone who's putting notes in. Hello, Susan. Thank you very much. Important and timely topic. Couldn't agree more. And we've got two outstanding people to cover this important and timely topic. So I'm really pleased about that. Inigo, hi, how are you? Renee, good to see you. Well, not see you. You know what I mean. Right. I would like to introduce you to our two panelists today. Aideen Hopkins, EER Middle East. Aideen has been involved in a management buyout, and we're going to talk much more in depth about that because, again, it's something that I have no knowledge of, but Aideen, you have some fascinating things to say about it. So I'm really looking forward to talking to you about that. And Wouter Esseldeurs from Vitus & Co. Thank you so much for being here as well. Wouter has experience in both acquiring and selling. So we're going to talk about his experiences as well. Everything that I've learned talking to you brilliant people has been so fascinating from the point of view of how M&A works. I mean, what we're going to cover in this session, we were just saying, is but as Wouter said, ChatGPT, Google, books, you can find out enormous amounts about this topic, management buyout, how to value acquisitions and sales. What we're trying to do here and in the next session is talk about actual experiences within our industry of how this works. So let's start. Aideen, can I start with you? We're going to talk about the before, the strategy and the decision making. First of all, you raised a really interesting point where we were talking. How do you determine whether an acquisition target is the right strategy and fit for your company?
Yeah, so looking at it, I suppose two things from our side, and my experience is this: we have the MBO that we did 3.5 years ago, but then not long after the MBO, we did an acquisition as well. And, I suppose the strategy behind our acquisition at the time was it was a competitor and it was maybe taking that competitor out of the market. And it also meant it gave us access to a client as well that we hadn't been working with previously, an RMC as well. So it kind of gave that two-pronged approach in doing it. And we had maybe spoken to a number of different companies and competitors just to gauge, where they were. Was it something they were interested in and thinking about selling and all of that? And, it's also a lot of the time about the culture and, that cultural fit. Is this somebody that you align to in terms of your own values, what you're understanding about the company, how it's run, how it's managed, and is it something that's going to be possible for you. And we had a number of conversations until, we fell on the right one that, met our strategic objectives, if you like, as well. And when we were ready, then it was about, using somebody. We kind of did all the initial stuff, myself and my business partner, Marie, in the sense of, that kind of warmth approach to it, the couple of lunches, the dinners, all of that, the easier conversations, to becoming more strategic about it. And once we felt, that both of us were aligned, we were interested in buying, they wanted to sell, it was moving that forward then to going and getting help from an outside party to really get involved in the valuation of the company and the subsequent negotiations then, and going into the legal aspect when it came to the agreements and all of that.
It's so interesting. It raises so many questions. It's so interesting that you went down the culture fit, the soft sell, the let's get to know each other, and then and Wouter, we were talking about this in the pre-calls. Do you agree that when you get to that point, you bring in specialists?
Yes and no.
Okay.
You have a lot of people. When you have an accountant firm, they will say, "Yeah, but we have our M&A department," and so on, so on, so on. I'm happy I didn't use them. Why? Because relocation is a niche market. Who knows it? If you want to buy a B&B in the south of France after you sold your beautiful company in relocation, it's easy. You have a lot of hotels, you have a lot of B&Bs, and you can go to a broker and they can help you really well. In relocation, you are the one who knows what is the value of your company, and I'm not talking about figures. You know who is coming to knock on your door, and if you try to imagine why is he knocking on my door, what value has my company for him, then you can adjust your price. What does normal brokers do? And I'm always talking black and white. So sorry for the guys who are working in that field or have a partner in that field. I will put it maybe too black and white, but anyway. They come in and they use models, and they're starting from the figures. But what is the most important thing in your company? For me, it's first of all sales. You need to write contracts. Sometimes in relocation, your contracts are not giving traffic. Some years are lower, but you have a lot of good clients. Second is you need a really good operational team. So they don't look at that. That are things that are not in your in the figures. There you have a problem. So it's about you knowing your industry better than them, and you know who's knocking on your door. You know, if you thinking about selling your business today, I will say you know who is your buyer. You know him. Nobody comes out of the blue into relocation. Doesn't exist like that. I don't believe it. It can, but I don't believe it. So you know them. So you know why they're knocking on your door. And that's important. It's important that you know what the value is they have with your company.
And Aideen, would you say that that tallies with your experience post the kind of the softer aspects when you went into the actual negotiation? Does that fit similarly
Yeah,
here?
so I suppose, with the acquisition that we did, it was just relocation services that they provided. And I think to anybody that's probably looking to sell their business, I mean, it's as Wouter said, people might know it very well. So it's all down to you, maybe developing your sales pitch, your deck, what it is you have to sell, and be able to tell a story. And whether that's around financials or operational efficiencies or an IP that you might have or something like that. But in particular as well, the more diverse your income streams can be is also something that's a lot better as well. So we acquired a business that was only doing relocation, but then there might be other businesses that they'll be reload, they'll be emigration, they might do translations and all of that. So if you can have these great contracts in place, but you have that diversity of income. I think something like that is going to certainly help your valuation and perhaps make you more attractive to buyers out there as well.
I think that's really interesting because over the last few years, when we've been running the kind of supply chain model meetings at the Euro conference, that's definitely something which everybody has kind of said. The more diversified your portfolio, Wouter, yeah, go on.
I wanted to tell you the way I explain when I work with people. When they ask, what do I need when I sell a business? Do I need help? For me, it's important. I say to them, you stay at the steering wheel. I can be your co-pilot, but you're on the steering wheel. I know a little bit the roads. I know a little bit the business. I know you can explain and we can learn each other to know each other a little bit better as humans so I can understand what kind of pilot you are. But you have to stay behind the steering wheel and you have to make it has to be you have to be authentic, and especially because normally you will stay on board for 6 months, for a year, but the relation you have with your buyer as a seller and vice versa, it's important. So it has to be you. But I never seen negotiation, and I did some the last years. That at every and in every negotiation, at one point it gets emotional and it gets nasty.
Yeah, I want to talk to you about that.
The first one who screams loses. So you need that co-pilot to take over the steering wheel when you feel that you're not able anymore to keep your temper, that it's getting too much emotional, and then you need someone. But don't give it all from the start to someone. Keep control and let the other speak at the moment when you lose your temper. And before we talked about it, you cannot be in relocation if you're not emotional. Normally in relocation we are emotional people. We care. So it's normal, and you have to be emotional about your business. I don't understand that people say, yeah, but you have to be no, you're emotional. It's your life. It's not just a hobby project. It's your business. You risked a lot to do it, and you have some pain, kids and all that stuff that you could have seen more. But no, that's the point where you need someone. On the other thing is, you have to work together afterwards, and that's my experience.
Yes.
You have to work afterwards, and during the process, Isabel is on the call too. What we did is I did the negotiations because I did no operations. So
Okay.
if there was a little bit of the little bit of negativity between in the process of negotiation, it didn't affect Isabel, who had to work with the company.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was Anita, it was Aideen before. That's easier. That's easier. And when we sold the same thing, that's easier. But we were lucky. We were two people, and I was lucky. I had someone doing operations. I had the nice part. I could go for lunch, and she was working.
So I just want a comment that's come through the chat box about very controversial merger and acquisition. Thank you, Dean, for saying hi all from never a 51st state. Dean is in Canada right now. It's just an interesting perspective from the point of view that there are so many challenges. And that's what I'd like to say. Aideen, what were the biggest challenges in both the acquisition and with the MBO, the management buyout? Sorry for using an acronym.
I think the biggest issue for the management buyout, I think, was just, the previous owner, he wanted to sell the company and, approached us first and all of that. And I think at first, the biggest thing was the self-doubt. We were kind of like, oh my God, can we do this? Will we be the right people to carry on the business and make something out of it? Because we had no experience of ever having owned a business in the past. But what we did have is that the actual owner was never involved in the business. He had completely stepped away from it. So from an operational perspective, we were running and managing it and all of that. So I guess we didn't have to go through a level of due diligence because we already knew everything. If there were skeletons, we knew where they were. We knew the systems, the processes, and all of that. So for us, when we did the management buyout, really it was just about agreeing on the financial valuation of it. And even then, like we didn't have to do that whole full valuation. It was just kind of a medium-sized one that we did. So it took maybe, 2 days to get the valuation done and all of that. And then it all just came down to, the agreement. How were we going to do this? Was it, with us, it ended up being kind of a mix of equity and deferred payments. And the deferred payments were very much in our benefit because it gave us time then to earn that money, in the company and to be able to do that. And I suppose at one time, maybe one lesson we maybe learned from that and the subsequent acquisition that we did then is that we financed all of that through the company. We didn't borrow the money to it. So that was great. We were actually congratulating ourselves, and that we were able to do this without borrowing money. But then at the same time, we reduced the kind of the cash reserve that was in the business as well, which maybe could have been better spent at, investing in, better systems and things like that. So you learn these things certainly as you go on. But I think it's the emotional aspect when it came to the acquisition as well. And you have to be a very strong, big person that if you stay on in the company afterwards, you're no longer the decision maker potentially. You're certainly not in control. You've moved from a business that was run maybe by email and by Excel spreadsheet. You're now joining a company that's much more in a corporate direction. And you really have to be able to adjust and adapt to all of that. And that's a very hard and challenging thing to do. And I think particularly if you sell maybe to a PE company, we were saying this earlier, that, you've owned your business, relocation, as Wouter said, it's about caring and that warmth and that love to the clients and all of that. You sell to a PE company, it's a numbers game after that. It's not about the care and everything. So again, if you are staying on afterwards, it's making sure that you know very clearly what your role and your responsibility is going to be and can you adapt to that.
Wouter, does that chime in with you? There's quite a lot of things you said there, Aideen, which we talked about on the pre-call. Wouter, please.
Challenges. First, Isabel and I, when we thought about buying, Isabel said to me, "You're crazy with your ideas. We have no money." And the thing is there's something that is not a challenge, is the finance your business. Because if you have it's hard to finance a business, then it's a bad business. So you don't want to buy it. But challenges now. The thing I learned is that when you start to speak as you address someone to buy his company, then for me it's like buying a house, and you cannot go in the house. You have to look through the windows, and the one person who is selling you the house is the person who lived there for 30 years. And so he's emotional and subjective, and he's talking with much of love and telling you what's happening inside, and it's great, it's great, it's great. You buy it, you come into a house, it doesn't look the way the person talked about, because the person is talking about how it was 15 years ago normally. And there's still people in that house. They didn't say that those people were not happy to have us. So that's for me the difficult thing. Company is about clients and about staff. It's hard to talk to clients, and it's hard to talk to staff. That's one thing. Another challenge I found that is it's the integration. It's the first thing is the first challenge is when you want to buy is you need courage to do the first step. We were working, Isabel was 37, I was 39. We had good jobs, and then you have to that first step, and you have to knock on the door, Isabel, of her boss and say, "I want to buy your company." Huh? You? You're a staff member. And so that's the first challenge. That is, yeah, just do it. Go to the bank. But how are you crazy about it? Well, no, let's do it. Let's try. We'll see. You have nothing to lose. But that's the first challenge was believing ourselves that it could be possible. And then the big challenge is the integration. Because we're talking about, yeah, but you have to look for the same culture. In relocation, in a lot of, you cannot move. So if we were in Belgium, Isabel loved relocation. I felt it. I want to have my own business. There were no 10 options. It's not like I buying that soap or that soap. No, there are not so many companies. So cultural fit is very important, but you have not many options. So I think you talk to yourself, yeah, we have the same culture, but it's not true. And then when you think about, we gonna merge, we're gonna have the same culture together. The thing was, what I discovered afterwards, both companies, we bought, after 2 years, we bought AMPM. We were 7, they were 7 people. So 13 people in the office, and not the freelancers in the office. So we had to build a new culture. We lost also our own company, and that was a challenge. We bought a company. They were both on the same, the day that they moved in Overijse, the next day you open the door and you're in a new company. And it took, I think, 2 years to build a new identity. And that was strange. Yeah, that was strange. The first acquisition when Isabel went in as owner, that's also hard. For Isabel, it was hard because she had colleagues. And now there was a strange relation. There are people that we knew them, we knew their kids, they played together, our kids. And from one day to another, I'm your boss now. And that is really difficult. That were for me the challenges.
That's fascinating. It's so much of this is incredibly personal, and I don't think that everybody on this call is an entrepreneur. And when you said, "What have we got to lose?" my brain just goes bang, because I'm so risk averse. I couldn't be an entrepreneur and do what you guys do. So I'm in awe of this. I find it fascinating.
I don't agree with you, Dom, because going to talk to your boss and going to talk to your bank, it doesn't cost money. It's only courage. It's only believing. And yeah, I'm a European, and I should have been in the States, but just try. It's about shame. We talked about Brené Brown and the book of her about shame. It's about shame.
That's very cultural. I'm going to come on to, thank you very much. You both raised the point when we were in the pre-call and then in the planning about financing options. And I'd love to talk to you both about, what your feelings are. Wouter, I'll start with you. You said share deal, asset deal. What are the options and what works and what doesn't work?
Case by case. If you a dangerous one. If you look at the books, and I will. There are a lot of people are I think looking to sell their company. I don't have the names of the people, but if you want to sell your company, for the buyer, for the seller is in Belgium, it's better to have a share deal. That's fiscally. I think that's all over Europe and the rest of the world. It's easier because you take everything. You can have everything, but you have to be honest. Are your books so clean? Is it so transparent? Is there not a car run by your daughter? Is there not a husband with a credit card going to lunch? Huh, Isabel? So if your books are really clean, you can do it. But so that's you. And when you sell and you take only the fiscal advantage for yourself, you never will get a deal. So I think it's for the buyer, it's easier to have an asset deal. For the seller, it's best to have a share deal. But as a seller, you need a buyer. So be open-minded.
And again, Aideen, you've seen this from both perspectives as well, right?
Yeah. So, what the MBO, as I said, was a mixture of equity and then just deferred cash payments. But with the acquisition, it was very much a cash payment that we made for the company, and pretty much, made that upfront as well. And then the owner did stay on with it. But I think, the biggest risk when you are doing those deals and however you pay it, it's the earnout that probably offers the greatest risk, because, that earnout is very much maybe dependent on some KPIs, on the performance of the company and all of that. And if that company doesn't perform and meet those, well, then, you're probably not seeing an element. So I think if you are speaking to potential buyers, it's maybe understanding, if there is going to be some sort of an earnout, well, what are they willing to pay up front? Is it a 50, 60, 70%? And is the 30% then the earnout, and being able to understand that? But I think to Wouter's point as well, I think if anyone on the call is thinking about selling their business, I would honestly say it's probably going to take you maybe something like 2 years to really get ready. To structure your company in such a way that you're thinking about that valuation. Because, yes, if you are using the credit card for the daughter, the husband, the wife, and all of that, things like that have to be cleaned up, because you need a clean financial slate, if you like. Your financials need to be clean. They need to be audited if at all possible as well. And not just your financials, but you can qualify your performance, whether it's your margins, your cash flows and all of that, and being able to show all of that. And it's not even just the financials, it's, your legal side of things. Are you meeting all of your regulatory obligations? Are your contracts all strong enough? If they're not, get them strengthened up as well. Have you a good cash flow, a good pipeline? What's your marketing strategy like and everything? So that, buyers want to see loyal, maybe long-term customers as well, or that you have that ability to get and win new business as well. That's something that's hopefully going to create that value as well. But, back to your point, I think the earnout is probably the greatest risk. It depends how long you're going to be in the company afterwards, the direction it's going to be heading in, and all of that. Do you have the potential to make that?
Talking about earnout, Adam, talking about earnout, that's what I tell to people. Better a lower price without earnout than an earnout when you sell. It's such a complicated thing. I used it too in my advantage, but earnouts are really a complicated thing. On the other hand, people are thinking about selling. I don't like earnouts, especially in relocation, because for me, relocation is about a commercial footprint and strong teams, strong culture, service culture. And culture is everything. It's strategy for breakfast. We all know that. But commercial footprint. You can have a big commercial footprint, but have 2 bad years because they're on a project. I don't know. In some countries, we in Belgium changing government all the time, but at one point in the port of Antwerp, they have to do big investments. So that's what I don't like with those things. It's gambling. But what I like and what sometimes sellers forget is work with a vendor loan. That's a fixed price, but you give breathing space for your buyer. If one of your best employees knocks on your door, I want to buy your company, I have no money, in Belgium. So if you give him a vendor loan for 25% of the value of the company, then a bank sees it as it's your own money, because they only have to finance 75%. So you, as a seller, you help the person who wants to buy your company, and you have a buyer. Because some of you are there, I will provoke a little bit. Some of you are waiting for your price, but in the meantime, maybe your passion is a little bit lower, and you're losing value for your company. So it's better to make it easier for one of your staff members to buy your company by giving him a vendor loan for 25%. You will get your money. You normally, if you have 75%, you have some cash to buy to do nice things. I hope so. And then maybe those new kids will do something great. So maybe you can even get more money out of it. For banks, they love it because it shows that The seller is believing in his company. So banks, they love that thing. It helped me a lot. It really helped me a lot.
Fascinating. Thank you very much, Sophie and Renee, who are asking they would love to hear if there were any surprises along the way in all of your experiences with the MBO, with the acquisitions, with the sales. Aideen, can I start with you? Put you on the spot there.
You are putting me on the spot. I suppose well, not so much with the MBO. As I said previously, we were already running it and doing it anyway. But on the acquisition side, something did crop up, all right, of a regulatory nature. So, that's why I'm saying if you're getting ready to sell, make sure everything is in order. So, yeah, it had a little bit of an impact. Nothing to deter the sale or anything like that, but just caught us on guard, and it was back to the negotiation table then to deal with that, But we handled it, and it certainly all worked out for the best.
Wouter,
Make me laugh. Surprises. Yes, a lot. What a nice surprise. The impact of buying companies was looked like some RMCs as okay. Isabel bought from Eileen, so yeah, that's the girl that bought a company from. So okay, but then we started buying companies, and we were taken seriously, and it's important for RMCs because they want to know that you're a stable partner, so they like you growing. So that was a real nice thing that buying companies gave us. Looked like we had a good backbone. I really like that one. I had a lot of surprises, but I will get back later. The bad surprise.
No, brilliant. I wanted to ask, Aideen, you touched on this a minute ago, but are there really distinct steps? You should definitely do ABC, like you said about compliance and making sure everything's in place in order to prepare the company for sale. Is there anything that you would recommend over and above that?
Well, I think first, if you have a really good finance person in your company, maybe you can get them looking at the financials to try and even come up at an indicative value of what your company might be. And whatever type of valuation, whether you're looking at future maintainable earnings or something like that, and try and see, can you look at a value? But I think the most important thing, if you're selling your business, what you want to be able to do is make due diligence easy. Because, these companies, these buyers are going to come in, they're going to scrutinize everything. And if you can make that process easier, that inspires confidence. It makes things a lot easier as you move forward with the deal. And, we would call it maybe gift wrapping your business. So, if you can do your own audit on everything, having a look at it. And it's just like I said earlier, it's making sure often you'll create a data room, a virtual data room where all the documents are going to sit when somebody is coming to buy your company. So that's everything from, your company documents, whether it's org charts, licenses, permits, anything like that you might have. Your certifications are going in there, your financials, your contracts, everything. So it's really going through all your contracts. Is everything up to date? Is it watertight for whether it's suppliers, whether it's clients, whether it's even your employees? And looking at that. But one thing that I think is really critical as well, and it's kind of back to my point earlier about, are you staying on after the sale? Is if you're critical to your business, well, you got to start working on succession planning. Right. And, like I say in every interview, I'm looking for somebody to make me redundant. And that's what you should be trying to do as a seller of your company as well. Because if your business is completely reliant on you, your clients are there because of you and all of that, that could be a red flag for somebody coming in to buy your business. So start that succession planning, building a strong management team, because I believe a value to your business is as much about your people that are in it, whether they are good, strong people from a leadership. Do you have that innovative culture within the team and within the business as well, because they're going to add value. So I think look at the succession planning, start gift wrapping, and as well, if somebody is maybe interested in your business, but you're not quite ready to sell, still meet with them, because having those conversations, you will absolutely learn something. So go out, and you never know, they might give you an offer you can't refuse, and you'll take that and head off to the Caribbean island. So that's what I would think.
Great.
Dom, can I go? Because now you're touching my soul.
Please. Please.
Sometimes I'm so frustrated. I see people work in their company and not on their company. So if you want to prepare your company to sell, make something that is valuable for someone else. First of all, you should always prepare your company to be sold, because you never know what your health will be. You never know what will happen in your family. So for me, it was important. We went to the bank and we borrowed a lot of money to buy a first company. And so for me, it was important that at least we could pay our debts. But if in the beginning, it was all about Isabel. And if she had a burnout, what would I do? I would try to look for someone to buy my company, not at a good price, but at a price. So for me, that's point one. Point two is create value. And what is value? So we said creating value is going on 3 countries, because RMCs, they want to work with several countries. We have 3 small countries. Let's do that. And that's why what I called like an example, what is value? Look in your market, look in your companies, in your local industry, what can create value the day that I sell my company. So work on your company, not only in your company. 1 day a week, you have to work on your company and it will be paid back, because working on your company is 20% of your time, but it's 80% of the value you'll get when you sell. Second thing about value, about getting money out, the best deal, the best money out your company, that's the thing. It's negotiating. It's negotiating, because you go on the wrong way during a talk and you can lose a lot of money. It's dancing. I like it because it's so intense and it's emotional and it's about figures, but a good negotiation makes a big difference. If you know why they knock on your door, and your accountants say, yeah, but you can ask 1 million X. Let's talk. But you feel that with my company in their strategy, wow, that for them, it's more value. It has more value than what's in the books. Because, sorry, I don't buy a company for his books. I buy because it fits in my strategy. I buy because I see I can. It's a catalyst for my company. So I'm not so interested in your books if I see that your commercial footprint is so good. There are 3 things one guy once learned me, and it was a good thing to remember for me. 3 things he said for a company if you want to sell it. Work on your culture. You have to be a culture-based company. It has to be about a culture. Commercial footprint. For us, it was going to 3 countries. Be international, but your commercial footprint. The third is, like you said, Aideen, a great data room. It has to be transparent. If you work on those 3 things, I'm sure you will get a nice value out of your company.
Susan, Jens, Rene, thank you very much indeed for your questions. I'm going to come to each of them, but I'm going to come to Rene's first, because this is again something both you, Wouter, and Aideen brought up in the notes that you had about this. Rene says, what's the ideal length of time as a leader to stay on post-purchase? What's too short and what's too long? Who wants to start?
Do you want to go, Wouter?
Yeah, that's really a difficult one. What's your capability of stepping back? What's your relation with people buying your company? Are you working with VC, those guys, those parameters? I'm skeptical by staying on board, but I like the idea of an MBA, management buyout, where you stay on board with your 25%, and you take the role as a coach. I once read Richard Branson, from your 20 till your 30, you study. From your 30 till your 40, you get experience. From your 40 till your 50, you make money out of your experience. From your 50 till your 60, you teach. And after 60, you go to the Bahamas. And so for me, that's when I read that, that's it. So somewhere in the 50s, is you can give your company to people of your team you trust, and you are capable. I wouldn't be capable. I have to be the boss. But if you're capable to be a coach and to deck that role, it can be a nice lifestyle because you're still active in your industry. You're still using your knowledge. You still have the brains working, but you don't have the operational stuff anymore. So then staying on board can be a nice project for life. If you're working with VCs and it's all about numbers, first of all, think twice for selling to them, because you're in relocation. It's about service. It's did someone saw a really great deal lasting good for years? I don't know. Maybe I'm getting some people against me and they're angry now, but I have difficult believing that you can put service, HR service into a model where they want to get in and get out in 5 years and do a multiple of 5. It's so difficult in relocation. Doesn't work like that for me. So if you sell to them because they give you a great offer, okay, why not? But staying on board, I don't know, huh? It's like having a daughter and then you're no,
Father of the bride.
will
Yeah,
stop. I will
no.
stop.
Father of the bride. I get that. Aideen.
Look, I think there's different factors to take into consideration. And I think maybe the first thing is looking, who are you as an individual? You know, if you're somebody that's very, very controlling and you have controlled that business for all those years, and now you're no longer the decision maker, you're working under a different leadership that could be a very different style of leadership to what it's going to be very difficult. And it could become very toxic, and not just toxic for you and the owners, but for all of the employees as well. And it can be very detrimental. And I think it's probably best if you could get out as quick as possible. But there needs to be a little bit of continuity at the beginning, because you have to reassure the employees, you have to reassure the clients and things like that. And I think a lot of the times people will want the seller to stay on board. But I think it's back to the earlier point. If you have that succession plan in place where you are not reliant, then you probably have a better chance of negotiating just a 6 month to a 12 month, rather than maybe somebody wanting you to stay for 3 years or even 5 years or something like that, which would just be, I think, too difficult.
Yeah. I agree. It's if you stay on board, stay for 2-3 years, not more. It's too money. That's already a lot. A good experience we had at MAP is that when we bought, Aideen stayed on board for the commercial things. So you need stability. And if as a seller you stay on board, it doesn't mean you have to come to the office. It means that for the outside world, you're still there. They still can phone you. You are still in touch. So what we did is, for the outside world, on the commercial side, on the contact of the RMCs, on the key accounts, you were still there for a year. But she didn't come to the office. She didn't live in Belgium. So that was a great idea, because Isabel knew she could phone and we could have meetings and we could help each other. But she was not in the office anymore, because that's a strange thing. So there is also, you can stay on board in a really different role, but don't come every day to the office. Leave the space and let them come to you if they need you. That's better, I think.
I remember having a conversation a long time ago, maybe 25 years ago, with one of our members who had been approached by her investors to ready the company for sale. And what they said was, you are so much this company, we need to bring in a new MD. And that was so hard for her, having been so passionate, that there are these emotional, and I'm glad you both alluded to this a little bit. By the way, another great quote. I was watching a documentary about Richard Branson, and he said, I was once asked, what's the quickest way to become a millionaire? And he said, become a billionaire and then start an airline, which I thought was hilarious. Anyway, I would love to ask one of the things that that you've both alluded to, but the question here from Jens Peterson about the impact on the staff during and after a takeover. I remember hearing, when that compliance piece is going on and the due diligence piece is going on, and you might be involved in an M&A across different, let's say, administrative reasons. So, for example, the EU has very strict rules about employment law, and it's very different, and France has very different rules to Germany, etc. I've seen mergers where that's been missed and where there's been an assumption that you can change the staff team. And that's not possible in quite a lot of markets, right? So, I mean, Wouter, you shaking your head, it would be like, that has to come into the due diligence, right?
Yeah, but in relocation, you're buying you're buying a commercial footprint and you're buying a team. So you never will, you cannot do it. It's too expensive. You can do it, but it's too expensive normally.
Yeah.
Why would you do that? Because
this was a merger.
Yeah.
This was a merger, and they wanted to streamline the management structure.
Yeah.
So people were going to have to be laid off.
But that's part of it's a total cost. It's like buying a house. You look at the house and you have, as a buyer, you have to know what are the costs. And as a seller, you have to listen to that. And you have maybe to adapt and maybe acknowledge that some things you didn't invest anymore that much as you did 5 years ago. Especially when you're looking for someone to buy your company and it takes 2, 3, 4 years. I start to seeing it now when I look at the figures and I listen. That's a thing. But staff, we did it really wrong 2 times. I think we did it better when we sold. The big problem is that for me, you have to talk to your team about your strategy, where you want to go. You cannot tell them every detail. I'm looking, but you never know when the deal stops. And then they cannot understand that. But for me, what we didn't do 2 times, we said nothing. And then one day, boom, new company owner, boom, new colleagues. We treated them like kids and we wanted them to take responsibility. We treated them like kids. So the third thing, I was talking for a year and Isabel was talking, we think we need to partner up. We think the industry is changing. We think we too small to stay on board. We think that IT is too expensive for us. Afterwards, it was wrong. But and we talked about the possibility that we're looking. We couldn't say everything, but it was not a surprise. They knew our strategy. They knew our vision for the future. So it's logic that you sold the part of that we're going together with another group. And that's for me, that's one thing really important that I'm a little bit ashamed of that we didn't do in the beginning, because then you're taking them for kids and that's not possible. You have to trust your people.
It's such an interesting one because on the one hand, you're quite right. It is like, how much do you disclose to your children about what's going on in the world? But also, I mean, Aideen, I suppose it's a slightly different thing with the management buyout, because in a way, I would imagine that was quite comforting for your team to know that was going on.
Well, I don't know. You'd have to ask them that, Dom. But no, it was, and it really wasn't an awful lot different for them because as I said, we were running the business anyway. The owner wasn't visible at all in any way. But, it's all about keeping them informed and when is the right time to tell them and what to tell them, because you have to be careful of the rumor mills and all of that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, we're a service business. So no people, no service, so you've got to be looking at them. And even when it looks, when you're looking to sell, you might have some key people that you do want to make sure, stay on afterwards and things like that. So maybe you have to incentivize them as well in some way to stay on in your business. That could be something you have to look at as well. But they're key. And when we did the acquisition, obviously, the owner stayed with us. They had an employee. They asked if we would keep them on as well, and we agreed to that for 12 months as a minimum, and that we would review it then afterwards. And then all the other people were just like freelancer relocation consultants as well. So that was a different matter.
Fascinating. Marion, thank you. Sorry, go ahead, Wouter.
Sorry, I want to share one thing. The most stupid thing I did in my life. When we bought AMPM, I went in their office and I said, really, quote unquote, nothing will change. Everything changes, even for you as an owner. Everything changes when you're in a merger. And so be honest, be courageous. Don't be silly. Say, let's see together. Let's try. We bought you because we believe in you as a team. We bought you because we believe as you. If you have to be authentic, and so you're not lying. But normally you should if you buy a company. So, but things will change, and also that's something else. But you need a budget to get to say goodbye to some people.
Yeah,
that's the difficult thing. But you need in a budget when you buy a company. You have to know that not everyone will be able to, even if their head wants, their belly doesn't. We're emotional people, so you and do it fast, do it good, and explain why. Be human, but be courageous. Do it, just do it.
Marion, thank you for your comment. Marion's part of the Clapham GmbH and summer relocation were acquired a couple of years back, and she said there were some obstacles, especially as COVID hit at exactly the time that was happening. Yeah, that would have been a nightmare. We're coming to sort of the end of the discussion. Susan, you put a really interesting question. Let's wind up with this and then go to specific questions that anybody's got. Do you have must do's and must don'ts in your head when entering these processes?
I think for me, in this sense, it's try and not be emotional about it. It's a big ask, but for me, I think your seller, maybe they're not worried about the emotional aspect, and particularly if you're selling to a PE or something like that, it's going to be a very different experience to maybe selling to somebody who's just looking to acquire another relo company to add to their growing group or something like that. And the must, as I said, you really have to have that due diligence in place. So making sure policies, procedures, systems. I mean, if you're still working on Excel and stuff like that, do you look at, putting in those operational efficiencies into your business now to get them going? And for me, because I'm not good at it, I want to have somebody that is that M&A specialist to support us through the journey as well, because I'm not the one to be doing the negotiations. I'm not good at it. I don't like it. So I would like somebody else to be able to take care of that as well. So for me, I think find somebody that can be your advisor and guide you through the process.
But it's your process. I always say it's not the lawyer that goes into the prison. It's you, and you still have to pay him.
I know,
So
but I would
stay,
just be no good at the terms and the conditions and all of that. I would need the help.
In negotiation, never go alone. Always go with two at minimum, because you have to look. Someone is listening, the other is looking. What's happening? What's happening around the table? It's 80% of its people, it's body language. So go with two. Stay at the steering wheel, even if you don't like it, but follow all the process. That's really important. As sellers, so important. If you get 80% of the thing you heard, you're having a good deal. We all make the same mistake. We listen to friends who we think they know something about, and they put figures in our head. And then those figures stay.
Yeah.
And then, no, it's a bad deal. Come on. No. When it's time to sell, do it. Because otherwise you postpone it, and normally your company will not get bigger and bigger. So don't look Don't look at that. As a buyer, don't listen too much to your accountant. Look at the value it has for you. Don't look at your ego. Don't look at the other person and you say, I don't believe they're bad in their business. I don't want to give them so much money because their company's not worth it. Look at what it brings to you. That's for me, that's really key.
But I
And
think as well, you should probably go and get an indicative valuation done because that can be done in a couple of hours. It can cost maybe 1 to 2,000 euros. That's what it would cost here anyway. And at least just because what you have in your head versus what, the market is going to tell you, you could be streams apart. And like the analogy to the house, something is only worth what somebody is willing to pay for it. And if you can understand what that is, then it may be, well, I'm not ready to sell yet. I have to go at this for another 2 to 3 years. I have to build something more, and kind of always have, I think, a backup plan ready as well. Because if you're not able to sell it, well, then what are you going to
What
do?
happens
Is
next?
it a
yeah,
close the door and walk
yeah.
away?
But if
Do
you,
you
yeah,
find somebody to run it so you take a dividend every year? What do you do?
it's important that if you take some lesson about negotiation, it's always about what's your best alternative to a non-negotiated deal. So what's your plan B?
Yeah.
The stronger your plan B is, the easier it will be to execute your plan A. That's true. The only thing is I don't like that's we'll tell it every. I like my company, my accountants, but if I had listened to them when I was buying companies, they always said, no, you're paying too much. And when I wanted to sell, I said, no, guys, this valuation, I don't listen to that. And I'm not
Yeah.
the best guy. It's not about me, it's about them failing because I did 1.7 times. So what is it? 1,7 fois. So not the double, but almost what they said that my company was valued. Because why? Because I knew we had a European brand. I knew Isabel had a nice network. I knew the RNCs, they trusted us all over Europe. And she showed it with Anywhere. She showed it. And I sold not my operations in Belgium, Netherlands, and Luxembourg. I sold the brand. And that brand had value. And that's why it was more. So I do agree, Aideen, what you're telling, but I don't, from out of my experience, I'm happy I didn't listen. I'm happy I'm cocky. I'm happy that I always think I knew better. Not always, but on those things, I knew better than them.
I think that's a really interesting point.
I hope this is not recorded.
Of course it's recorded. I'm afraid it is. And it will be on YouTube. I think it's very important. I think it's what comes out of that last conversation between the two of you is really that, no two M&As are going to be the same. No two management buyouts are going to be the same. They're going to be based on your culture, your individual approaches to it, the company that's involved, the company that's in play. Some really nice comments just coming through the chat box. Thank you very much, Ravi. Appreciate your take on negotiation, to have someone in the room to read the room. I think that's very interesting. Sophia, hi. Fantastic conversation. Very insightful. Marion, highly appreciate the open mindset of the session. Dana, great topic for next year's Euro conference. 100%. And Rene, goodwill is hard to value as well. That is such a good point because it is intangible. In the utmost, it is intangible. Does anybody have any specific questions? We're about 2 minutes away from the end. If you do, please just pop it in the chat box and our experts will have an attempt to answer it. In the meantime, just to let you know, this is the first of 2 sessions. We're going to run another one after the conference in Zagreb, which will be a panel discussion from people who've, again, like Wouter and Aideen, been through it. And we're hoping to find somebody who's looking to go through it. So if you are the brave person who's looking to do this, we'd love to hear from you. Wouter, Dean Hufford. Oh, thank you, Fiona. Wouter, 100% agreed. One's brand is intangible. Ina, thank you. We enjoyed this and could relate to it. Oh, you did a management buyout at PII. Yes, you did. Thank you. Love to talk to you about being on the next session. Jürgen, thank you. Elena, it's a great discussion. Thank you. Wouter and Aideen, it really has been a great discussion. Over the last few days that we've been planning this, I have learned so much and I really appreciate it. So everybody, the recording will be hopefully around for you tomorrow. Aideen and Wouter, I really can't thank you enough. And again, like everybody said in the chat, for your candor and honesty. And when a conversation flows like this, it's just a joy to be part of. So thank you very, very much indeed.
Thank
Thanks
you,
to
guys.
everybody who's been on the call today. And we will come back in June and attack this topic again, and hopefully as well at next year's conference I'm not going to tell you.
But see you all in Zagreb.
See you in Zagreb. Take care, everybody. Thanks again, Aideen. Thanks again, Wouter.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye, everyone.